Fempreneur Friday is a conscious entrepreneurship community and a safe space where consciousness meets cool in divine feminine celebration and where we align over hustle.
Think about it as your own delicious happy hour for the week. It is a live, raw, and real community conversation with us, your girlfriends.
I'm Brett Sims, an entrepreneur, artist, and the founder of the global art nonprofit Stuck Designs.
And me, Stacey Wigiseria. I'm a mom, author, esthetician, self-love coach, and founder of Exalted Home and Pain. We are here to elevate in the community and connect with you all. If you're ready to take your spirituality and business to the next level, join us. Welcome. We're back.
Fempreneur Friday.
Fempreneur Friday, where the talk can be about all the things. So like what we're about to talk about. So I guess we'll just hop right in with all of the things. We were discussing. We hop on and we're like, why didn't we start recording from the time we just saw each other's faces? But I think this is so cool because this is exactly what was just flowing out of us, and this is the next topic. So we're talking about self-judgment. It just came to us, and really noticing that in our business and how that affects us. And actually, we're processing through this information as we are talking about it, which is so cool.
Yeah.
So, what I was mentioning to Brett is that I noticed that, we, and also myself, I was noticing it with myself, and then on our podcast, that we tend to say and like this. And we were just talking about how that is kind of like a Southern California, LA thing that people do say that.
But California in general, honestly, because I'm from the Bay.
Yeah, and then I guess, we can kind of weave this into masculine, feminine energy, but just like the self-judgment of, so my first thing is like, dang, we should try to, not say that. And then Brett was like, there's Brett said that, maybe that is that really authentic, right? We really want to be in our voices of who we are and how we naturally talk.
Right.
And then there's that other piece of, yes, that is how we naturally talk, but also there's that element of when we're recording, there could be this more
professionalism or whatever it is.
Yeah, of course we want to be professional, quote unquote, but not, it's more like expanding, right? So how much of yourself do you want to be authentic, and how much is like just a natural growth? So that's one part of the question that we're arising. And then the second part is like, I love the acceptance you're talking about, and self-judgment, and how much are we going to allow someone to see and just let it be what it is as it continues to progress. And I thought that was so beautiful, because for me, I would put a lot of judgment on that. I'd be like, shoots, like I'm saying this a lot.
Yeah.
Is this the right thing? Maybe I should choose a different topic if I'm hesitating too much about what I'm saying. So I did that with me. And then luckily I brought that here with Brett, and she's like, you see, this is why we need our friends, because they just readjust us like, okay, yes, this might be the case, but also there's an expansion and acceptance around this, and then how much times we have self-judgment around our own businesses. So that's how we're opening up. Just kind of gonna let this flow from here, but
that was a good intro.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, it's a lot for me, when Stacey kind of brought this up, it just made me think of personal authority and really mastering like your full personal authenticity, because we're in a new age, we're in a new era, like we're moving into a new time and a new era. And like in business previously, like there was a lot of, everything had to be so structured. You have to be so professional. You have to have your business a certain way, run your business a certain way, sound a certain way. But like, I don't know if you guys have seen the TikToks, with Gen Z and just how they kind of do TikToks about like Gen Z in the workplace. But with them, it's just like they're all about embracing who they are no matter what, no matter how they sound, no matter where they're from, no matter what, like, and standing up for themselves, like, especially in the workplace. And I was saying to Stacey, I
will notice it more too, which is interesting. And it's funny that, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm like, it's
go ahead.
that we're talking about this because honestly, it's like so real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's something that for most of my life, like people have tried to say to me to make me feel insecure. And it's like, I've had a lot of people like, stuck team members who have been like, well, like I notice that you always are saying, like, am I coming through what you are saying? And notice, like people have picked at how I like speak for as long as I can remember. Like either I'm sounding too white or too articulate, or I don't know what it is. I don't know why
not enough. Like kind of always in between that.
Yeah, or too like too upbeat, or too like like happy. And I was actually watching our one of our last videos. And I was actually sitting back and thinking, because you were kind of more, I think this is last week, you were more kind of like a chill vibe, feeling like kind of out of it. Yeah. And I was kind of a little bit more hyper, I think. But I was thinking, like, is this authentic? Is me being like this, authentic? And like, yeah, it is a lot of the time. But sometimes it's not, but I think that we often even let society and other people shame us for being too upbeat or being too like California or whatever it is, because, I was saying to Stacey, other states have like, New York, like they got, like cool slang, like, and Philly, like
why isn't ours cooler?
New Orleans, they got cool accents there, yeah. But we don't have that so much in California, and it sounds like Valley, but I mean it's not, because Black people live in California too. It's just kind of how we talk a lot of the times. Granted, sometimes people might sound more heavily California to you than another person, but it's just like everybody has a different slang, whether you talk super country. I dated somebody who sounded super, he said, well, he thought he sounded super country. And I was like, I mean, sometimes, but I liked it. And he thought that I just sounded so like, yeah, California, white girl California. But so he would try to always, and he was from New Orleans, he always would try to make me say, you're me. Like, and start cracking up when I say it super California, like, I can't say it right. You're me. That doesn't sound right. But it's just like different slang, different strokes for different folks. But I feel like it's so judged, just like voice, tone, or whatever, and people don't understand like that California girls who can sound like me or Stacey can be also super hood or super whatever it is. Like it just, people sound different in California. That's a thing. And we say and we say like as just our,
and no matter what it is, it sounds like just also, I just love the fact of like just embracing where you are. And then there's that fine line. So the first part is, wow, I just realized, wow, yeah, you know what? Not only was there like judgment, but also like a little bit of shame on my part. Like, oh man, I do this, and how does that sound? How's this sounding? I know it doesn't have to be professional, but at the same time, I was like,
middle.
But then where's that fine line, right? So that brings us back to masculine and feminine energy, which we'll talk about more in our next episode. But I think it's just finding the balance between accepting who you are, also on a growth path, right? Yeah. Because some of us don't actually start those sometimes, because some, like other previous episodes, we talked about being a beginner and having that beginner mindset. And sometimes you just don't want people to see you in those vulnerable, or actually not even that it's even vulnerable, you just don't want to be in the face of judgment, right? Judgment. But the thing is that we are our own, like if we are judging ourselves about that, we think that other people are going to notice that or see that. It's because we're so judgmental of ourselves in that area. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. And I was just going to say, like, you have to remember that most people like hate the sound of even their own voice, and that's why they would never even start a podcast or do a podcast. That's so true. Because, and it's not really, to me, it's not really even about the likes or the ums or the tone or whatever. It's about you it's just a part of the process, because like when I first of all, I have stage fright. Like I like grew up with stage fright, and I mean I kind of knocked it out in like the 7th grade, because my 7th grade teacher made me write a huge U and a huge M on the board in front of the whole class. And so after that,
you know what? I've never even heard these stories in my whole life. Like, wow, wait a minute, tell us more.
Yeah, so that's how, because I was so shy, like I was painfully shy. I think not because that's in my nature, but just because I was so like judged in the household and stuff, and so I was so scared to like say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, because I grew up like having to be perfect and walking around on eggshells basically. So I was just so scared to not be perfect and not say the wrong thing. So I would be reading like a really great, because I've always been a great writer since then, and I'd be reading my piece, but I would just always be like and like the teacher, it was, I mean, I guess it was kind of harsh, but he could also see that I was intelligent, and like he could understand.
You know what, I mean, he wanted to do something, but he just did it the wrong way.
Exactly. So then he made me do that.
Like, I don't like this teacher. I'm so upset.
Yeah, and then he because you used to have, like, he gave us these like knots around like a neck, like almost tied like a boat knot, and you got this like necklace when you mastered public speaking. So
wait, I guess all that grade having public speaking. Wow.
Yeah, public speaking in 7th grade. I'm telling you, this teacher. In one of my podcasts on the Stuck on Self-Love one, I talked about it. But in the 7th grade, I watched The Matrix. I read the autobiography of Malcolm X. I learned public speaking, essay writing, Islam.
Who are you? I don't even know you anymore.
It was
kidding. This is really cool.
That's how my life kind of started out, and that's how I ended up being like, going to high school, being on like student council and speaking, and and it made me more confident moving forward. But I think that I just always had that in me. And then also my thoughts go so fast sometimes that is like just it's like a place saver. It's like a breath. It's like, let me process. And I just kind of want to get people out of that judgment thing, because sometimes regardless of how it comes out, you just have to say the thing, because you never know how it's going to affect, the next person that's listening, or you never know, who's going to need to hear it, and then, or maybe you need to hear it later when you're re-listening to something.
Right. How many times have we done that?
Yeah.
You're like, we said that on our podcast? Oh, yeah, we did that.
And there's been all this talk in the media about freedom of speech right now, and I just think that it's like we've been in a society where we censor ourselves and almost like censor each other through judgment and shame. And a lot of times people that have these like comments like towards you or to what you're doing or how you're showing up or whatever, it's like they haven't even begun, And so it's like kind of stepping back and saying like, well, who is, saying these things? But also like, and then I think you can always use critiques or hate or comments or whatever it is as a way to bolster yourself up and boost yourself up, because you can be like, well, okay, like how can I in certain things like like say like less? How can because maybe
I think like you said. Oh, okay.
But you said like I said that doesn't count.
The funny thing is that there's that what is it? I guess it would be the duality of it, right?
Yeah.
Where yes, that thing or judgment or so on, it doesn't have to be the end all, but there could be some growth, and there is this big part of acceptance, and I love the two, like integrated.
Right.
Like it doesn't sound, that sounds like personal power.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think because even showing up like imperfect, it inspires others to be able to do the same. I actually put up this painting that's behind me if you're watching on YouTube, because this week a girl who was she had contacted me via like Instagram a couple months ago, and she was like, I'm really inspired by this painting. I have this fashion collection that I want to basically, I want it to inspire the collection. Like, I want it to be kind of like the muse of the fashion collection, because it's like painting on clothing and etc. But months and months passed, maybe almost a year, and how I initially did, she asked me to speak on it, to like tell her like what it means, like what it means to me, why I created it. And it says let go. So I made a video actually way back when, explaining the significance of the painting, the meaning behind it, the depth behind it. It's really about the art of letting go, the law of detachment, etc. But it was before it was maybe when Fempreneur Friday had kind of just started, and so I could have just kind of like overthought that, but I just put out a video, and I know I said like so many times in that video, and I know it was probably way extra too perky for a lot of people, reptilian people who don't like sunlight, but it really helped her, and it was so
I'm moving around so much.
Beautiful to your friend to see to see her finished product, her fashion line for her university. It's beautiful, and she did her own version of the painting on this like almost corsety like sheer, I can't even explain it, it's really cool. But I'm gonna do a video of it. I'll link it below actually. But it was just like a really powerful thing. Like, wow, okay, so through my words, through this explanation, even though like I wasn't really sure about it, that was my very first art talk that I had done. That's actually why I started doing like art talks on my YouTube, etc. But it really led to that, kind of just like not really being sure, but like, all right, let me just kind of, explain this. But you never know who you're going to inspire, even if you're not, your sound is not exactly how in your mind you would like,
Right. So true.
Oh, I was also watching on Apple TV this Sidney Poitier documentary, and he was talking about, he's originally from Barbados, and he had this thick Barbados accent. And he was not able to get acting roles because they said that his accent was too thick.
Wow.
And so he was saying that he listened to a person on the radio, like a news broadcaster, and he was obsessed with that news broadcaster's voice, so he just kept listening to it and adopted his kind of like his voice, how he kind of orates. And that's how he kind of learned English or white English. Right. But yeah, so I think that I think it's a part of all our lives, how our voices sound and how our voices come out,
right? Like the energy, even the energy behind our voices and how it fluctuates, and our tonality and everything. It's just like listening to a radio station, and that's why I always think that whoever's for you is for you as well. Just like as you're listening, like who you're tuning into, who's like around, and also where they catch you in what moment, right? Because that could be, even as you mentioned when you were first starting. Oh wow, that was crazy. and then as you continue to progress and different conversations, the different paintings that you started from before and now later, where they're catching you on the journey, and who needs you on what part of their journey.
Right, because
it's always like that.
Yeah, and I mean, I listen to podcasts from people all over the world, and like one girl that I listen to, she's actually from Norway and has a Norwegian accent, and it's so interesting to hear her stuff because she's super, insecure sometimes about like how she sounds and then how she sounds in English versus how she sounds in Norwegian, and she feels like she's like in English, but she feels like Norwegian's more like more calm and like laid back, and it's very interesting, like, and because who would have thought like I would resonate with her words or how she's orating, but really it's about what's behind the words,
right?
And that's what I got from her podcast. And then like I've listened to another girl, she's kind of like she's into tarot and astrology, but more like hood tarot and hood astrology. So hers is just super real, and I like that too. And so it's just, the best of both worlds. I think you can listen to podcasts from all over the place and get different perspectives, but it's really, like what taps into your soul. Like, I think I posted on our stories today, and I'll put it in the health highlights, something about vibration and just like how vibration is so healing, and listening to different tones and frequencies and binaural beats help us. And I think it's kind of the same as listening to voices. I think some people's voices can be soothing and healing to you, and then and then some maybe not, or some may like hype you up, and that's what you need for then. But
and exactly, right, we're also in different spaces throughout the day, throughout our season, throughout different things that we're going through. Sometimes soft music sounds like exactly what I need, and sometimes it's like, oh my god, I need something else, right?
Yeah.
So it really, I love this. I don't know, it's touching me in like places that it needs to. And I love that you shared about just as you're younger and how that kind of just transforms throughout this whole experience, and it continues to evolve, I think.
Because I think also when you talk about things and when you address these things that like in your mind or whatever are, and I speak personally too, like, are just like, not necessarily like insecurities, but just like things you want to change or whatever. But I think if they're like addressed, especially to your public, to your audience, who you're uplifting, who you're trying to uplift, then it's like it just becomes more real, because it's just like, I was like, because Stacey said that, but I was like, I know that I say like all the time. I know that I say all the time, but
and one of the things that I am happy to share with Brett, and also that I'm really conscious about sharing with friendships that are close to me, is really talking about the elephant in the room, right? Like, the thing. And sometimes we don't have those conversations, I think, with the people that are important to us. And when we don't talk about it, right, like we're harboring like resentment or harboring something. It's just like, okay, this whole experience is like doing that, and also like doing it with love, because I'm so gracious. This is just like one portion of our conversations that we get to have, which is cool. But I was like, I don't know, just in this moment, I'm really grateful that, wow, we can talk about this thing, and it actually came into something that can
be an episode.
It's expanding for us, and it's a topic for our podcast, and it's cool. It's instead of it was like, man, could be like judgment, like, oh no, we need to delete,
edit out all these
episodes. But then we're like, oh wow, we can really make something of this and continue to have the conversation and continue to grow with each other, which is awesome, and see that
and stop judging California girls, people.
But just like taking that on, I just remember how great that is to talk about what's there. That was one of my my commercial topics on the list, of like talking about the elephant in the room always, but like with love.
That's so funny, because I was listening to the Revolution Rambling podcast, and she was talking about how like as a Gemini, like Geminis could not avoid like the elephant in the room. She'll be like, if there's an elephant in the room, the Gemini will enter and be like, why is there a fucking elephant right here? Like, why is it there? Like, don't you see that elephant right there? And I think that's why like Geminis and Cancers also get along, because it's just like, okay, we can talk about that. Sure, I'd love to.
Yeah, because I'm drawing all the emotion from there. I'm like, okay, something needs to happen. So that's what's really cool.
And guess what?
What?
I pulled from this Stuck Self-Love First affirmation deck.
Yes! Plug the deck.
And the card was Chill and Let It Go.
Wow. First of all, the painting in the back, let it go.
Oh, yes.
Let it go here.
I just randomly pulled that, that's weird.
Yeah, let it go all around. It's just like continuous, even yesterday, like kind of, whew.
I've been having to deal with like that a lot, and I feel like we're definitely in a season in surrender. I feel like there's been a lot of seasons of surrender, but that is part of like, business building and growing and all of that. But I just, oh my God, like just for me, it's been really hard to balance, the masculine and feminine energies, because I've always been more so in my masculine, because I feel like I've always had to like protect myself.
Right.
And I feel like I had a huge imbalance of giving and receiving, especially like with my nonprofit, because I would just like give and give and give till I had nothing left.
Yep.
And I think that I had to learn the balance of like, just making that equitable, like, resting and giving and receiving, because those are three things that are very important, especially like in the philanthropic nonprofit world. And I think I had to, I am learning to like also just like work, and then learn to step back, take a break, breathe, nap, and then like maybe go back in, because I used to just binge work. I feel like until I would kind of just like burn out, and then I would have to rest because I forced myself into burnout, and then I would like, then I could start again. So I'm trying to make it more balanced, like my workflow. But I feel like as a Gemini, I'm very either like, work. It's either work or it's rest. I don't know. What do you mean this in between? Like you go hard or you're sleeping. I don't. So it's been interesting, but I mean, there are so many different like people who are kind of navigating this like space of incorporating the divine feminine with the divine masculine, and so I found so many good resources on people figuring it out also, and tips, but I've definitely been navigating that this week. I needed a lot of rest because I did kind of burn myself out painting a bit. But yeah,
I noticed that. And when you brought up masculine and feminine, I not only about just like kind of attracting, like how much do you just wait for things to happen, and how much do you like try to make things happen?
Right.
And I also just noticed that sometimes when I'm shifting between the two, it could be on the extreme side, right? Like, how can you find the balance? So, right. But I do notice that having a lot more structures really do help, right? That allows the feminine to really appear. Like,
what do you mean by structure?
And what I mean is sometimes it's just the planning ahead, right, or having these different parts where you're going to be at that time.
Right.
That makes so much sense, because then you can be in flow of what's arising there in those moments. So for me now, it's really getting more of a handle over my schedule and even finance.
Me too, honestly.
Like planning ahead for my finance. Like, for example, I know certain things come out of this account, but do I know the exact days? No, I don't. And the thing is, if I really want to up level my, my finances and things that are coming in, wow, like it'll make such a difference knowing that, yep, every day on the 13th, this is what's happening. So I'm not guessing or checking how many times do I have to check it, as opposed to just knowing when it comes in, right? So like, how much space and freedom can you free up by having those things in place? Mm-hmm. We know that, or I also know that logically. And then also it's always about integration. It's always about bringing it back and using those practices to actually feel more free.
Right. Yeah.
It feels like you're not free because you're like having to do all those things, but at the same time, those are what actually gives you access to that free flow.
Yeah, the structure,
the peace, right?
Yeah.
And allowing the feminine to flow in those areas.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's just like, because I'll have like a lot of nonprofit work to do, and that's more like on the computer, and then that's just and meetings and talking to people, and then
when do you shift? It's just like, okay, when I feel like, right? So then that's hard. That's hard.
Yeah, and then it's like painting, and then your mind is somewhere else, and then it's like, so it's really like finding that balance too, because they're totally different.
Right? Creating it so then it can be adjusted. But if we're just continuing to go with the flow, which I would love to do.
Yeah, me too. As an air sign, I just could flow into infinity. But yeah.
Exactly. So definitely there's some judgment around that. We're talking like judgment. But yeah, I guess anything else around self-judgment we can say.
And I think it's also, though, God, because a lot of that self-judgment when you're balancing the masculine and the feminine comes from taking periods of rest and surrender and absolutely doing nothing, but you're not really doing it because your mind is guilt tripping you about the resting, about like,
yeah, because you're not even resting when you're resting. You're resting thinking about what you're not doing.
Yep. Are you dreaming about what you're supposed to do next, or what you should do next, or what you're going to post next, or what's on the to-do list, you know, all that. And so that's a balance as well. I love planners though. Like, I think that I'm definitely going to utilize my planner more to kind of break up my workflows, my different kinds of workflows. And that's been helping a lot. I have it's like an astrology planner actually by Aura Align, and it's pretty fascinating because it says moon cycles, and then it also like has a monthly breakdown of like, you know, shadow work, moon work, all that. So that helps. But structures, yeah. So did you ever, I know that you were thinking about scheduling for your salon and like what tool to best use. Did you get something?
Yeah, so I am using Gloss Genius, if anyone's in the salon industry. Yeah, so we're using Gloss Genius.
And what is that? Like, is it like for iPad? Is it an iPad kind of thing?
Yeah, actually it's an app, so you can be on iPad or on your phone. So actually I just use it on my phone. It does come with like one of the square attachments, but you don't even need that. Now you can just tap phone to phone and you can get paid. Like, it has Apple Pay. It's really great. It comes with a free website. It comes with all the booking information. I can set personal time there where it won't conflict with the hours that I already have set for the business. So things are in motion.
That's good.
Yeah. So I've taken probably at least, like more than 20 clients there so far.
Nice.
Yeah.
Congrats.
And again, that's been another thing. Like, usually what I would do is I'm going full force, all the things. And that's not the case here. What's great is like, it's really just building slowly at a great pace that feels really comfortable. I get to be like really excited when I get there, have like great conversation. I got a review on Google the other day, and one of the ladies mentioned like it was such a great service and therapy session at the same time, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's so great. I had my first 2 people find me just off of Google as well, so I had my first like strangers just find me.
Oh my gosh, we need to make Fempreneur Friday cards.
Oh yeah, that would be amazing. So that has been just feeling really in line as opposed to how I would typically operate before. So I'm interested to see how it'll continue to grow. And I think also the same transition has happened over our conversations, even over Fempreneur Friday. We're just like allowing it to be an extension of who we are as opposed to forcing anything in the beginning, right? We're like, oh, we could do this. But actually, okay, this is like an extension of who we are. Like, it gets to be an expression.
Well, and I also feel like we had to do season 1. Our season 1 is, if you guys look back, it really laid down the structure of what consciousness is. And so like when you are confused with certain terms we're using or saying, you can go back to season 1 and, you know, go to those very specific points like burnout, from imposter syndrome to the art of letting go, to detachment. And I think that that's why we built it like that, because it's a resource. It's literally a course, you know. And what's interesting and unique about it, like why I think this is so powerful, is because it's a course, yes, and everyone can utilize it as that, but it's like, as your teachers on this course, it's like we're also taking the class with you, like we're growing with you, and we're growing as you do. And so as you know, you see our growth, we hope that you are growing in your journeys as well. But I think that that's the beautiful thing about it, because we do have this, we have a structure, we have this stable foundation that we built that's like really like what is consciousness. And then in this season 2, yeah, we've let you guys in a little bit into you know, who we are more so as women. And I think that that takes a lot of guts, and that's, you know, I think we both deserve a lot of props for that, because it's not easy to do podcasting. It's not easy to share. And I think we both are kind of closed door with a lot of things in our lives, you know, that we let you guys in on. So
yes. And one thing I do say a lot with my clients, and that I take on, and also continuing to breathe through taking on, because it's not always easy, just as you're mentioning, just the same walls that keep out rejection are the same walls that keep out love. So real, right?
Yeah.
So just allowing people to really see you, sometimes that's an interesting thing to navigate. So we're with you on that. We're with you on that journey. And I love this, how this kind of morphed into a real topic. And it's like self-judgment around why we say like
and like we like love you so much.
and like allowing ourselves to see ourselves, like being that reflection and continuing to see how that transforms. So and I think from ourselves, right? Like not waiting for someone else to have an opinion of why we're transforming, but just like ourselves, how we're noticing. Wow, okay, the consciousness of noticing, the consciousness of understanding, personal acceptance, moving through all those different spaces and deciding what we want to do, right? Like having a choice. So I think that this has been a beautiful conversation, and I have gotten lifted from it. So thank you so much for listening, tuning in.
Yeah, thank you guys. And just, I think, remember this week to, I don't know, try to be your most authentic self, even if you say it like 100 times in a conversation like me. You know, do you
show up and you don't know what to say. I didn't get to say with what, for me, like one time in college, I was doing my report on this book called Metamorphosis for my English class, and I froze. I completely froze. I said nothing.
Really?
Yeah.
That's not like you.
In college. Now, this is at Santa Monica, not at LMU. But,
oh, okay.
But still, I remember that day till today, right? Those are just some moments that really impact us. And when you shared that, I was like, oh, wow. Yeah. Those are.
And this was pre your women's studies merging.
Yep. Pre all the things. So more things on that later. That was when I was with my first boyfriend.
But then it's like you had a lot.
I was going through a metamorphosis, and I honestly, if somebody were to poke me at that moment, I would have just like fell. Like I was holding so much things in at that time of my life that I had just nothing to say. I did not want anybody to see me
that makes sense.
I did not want to be seen.
And then it's like you started to move through it, I feel like, being a women's studies major and like immersing yourself in that community too of the women's studies majors. And I feel like you really blossomed into a really powerful teacher at LMU, because your documentary was fantastic, you know?
Thank you. More to come.
I love it. I wish we could find that documentary.
I know, me too. Maybe Jason has it.
The lost archives somewhere.
Yeah.
But anyway, guys, happy Friday!
Happy Friday! Happy Fempreneur Friday! And yep, sounds like our message is really to be ourselves. Be yourself this week.
There's nobody that can
do better than you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because I was about to mess up that quote.
Other than you. So, whew. Okay. Yeah.
Bye.
Boom. Bye. Also, check out our companies to support your ascension and to give back to underserved girls through art and self-love.
You can check out more on me, Brett, and my art, coloring books, and self-love affirmation cards that will support you on your own art and self-love journey, relieve stress while giving underserved girls of color the gift of art. Follow at Stuck Designs, that's STUK, on Instagram, or visit stuckdesigns.org.
And you can check out more about me, Stacey, at exalther.com. There you can find out more about my book, Exalt Her, 12 Ways to Unleash Your Unstoppable Beauty. It's about being more of who you are from the inside to out and sharing more of your gifts with the world. I host workshops and coach one-to-one around aligning with yourself, your life source, and your legacy. You can also find out more and follow us on Instagram at exaltedwoman.com.
Happy Friday and have a great week.